Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management? 401ks are humble and lovable. They allow employees to save for retirement with pre-tax contributions, reducing taxable income and enabling tax-deferred growth until withdrawal. Then there's Roths. Many employers offer matching contributions, effectively providing free money to boost retirement savings. Who doesn't like that? But they can wander off, usually with human help. To get at that, Tom Parks, Director of Retirement Plan Services, and Matt Morzy, Director of Research with the Annex Wealth Management Investment Team, here to help with some insight and tips to avoid issues with diversification. Hey, Tom.
Hello, Danny.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Danny.
We will start with misuse of target date funds or allocation funds. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's a really easy one to be a little misguided with in terms of your allocation. Target date funds in themselves are really great options for people within 401k plans. They put together a nice portfolio. It moves over time based off of your length of time into retirement, and that's great. But sometimes people will start to mix and match them and have multiple different target date funds in the same account. And so they're based off of the year that you anticipate retirement. So it might be 2040, it might be 2050. I think I've seen all the way to 2070 now. But somebody might have a 2060 and a 2065. And there you're starting to kind of get a little wonky.
This would be an oversimplification, Danny, but if you were to put half of your money in the 2050 fund and half your money in the 2060 fund, essentially what you got yourself was the 2055 fund. So you might as well just put it all in there. So, and that is a little bit of an oversimplification, but not by much. So the idea with target date funds is really conceptually, it's like a one-stop shop. It's a strategy as much as it is an investment choice. Is that fair to say, Matt?
Definitely. And I think it's a really easy one for people who are not professionals at this to use and try to maximize, what they're doing, because it really takes almost no work to do it, which is great. And that's really one of the best things about 401k plans is that it's so easy to be able to use them.
Is too much of a good thing a bad thing? In this case, does over-diversification lead to complexity?
That can be the case. So we at Annex, with Matt's help and his team, I think do a really nice job of constructing very diverse menus of options for our retirement plan clients. But that does not mean that the intention is for once this menu has been built, that you will use a little bit of every single thing on the menu. If you have 10 funds, some people will do there are 10 funds, I'll divide that by 10, put 10% in each. And that is not necessarily the way to go either. So part of the idea behind having a diverse menu is we want to be able to build the right portfolio for each of the people having the right tools, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to use all of those tools simultaneously.
I see you've been to the Cheesecake Factory.
Indeed. That's exactly what it can be like, Danny.
Right. We're with Tom Parks and Matt Morzy discussing misguided 401 diversification. Hey, Matt, let's talk about the dangers of ignoring asset class diversifications. How do you fall into that?
Really simple, because people tend to pick from fund lineups based off of what's done really well lately, and they tend to be really one-sided on a lot of that. We've had a lot of U.S. equity outperformance for a while, so people group into that area, but forgetting, hey, there's other parts of the equity market, whether it's international or maybe small cap, which has trailed the large cap, or maybe forgetting fixed income altogether and just not really being at the right risk tolerance that they should be, and only getting one area of that box checked.
The next is the equal allocation trap. I haven't heard of it, so I'm sure I've fallen for it. We set that ourselves, then we fall into it.
Right. This is kind of what I was getting at, where people will take the concept of diversification and rather than being more nuanced, we have generic guidelines for conservative through aggressive to help the conversation go with the people we're talking to. But it's more nuanced. It's like 12% in this one, 17% in that one. It isn't 4 funds, each with 25% or something like that, which is an easy way to think about it and is probably better than just putting all of your money in one non-diversified fund. But if you're going to go about diversification, you want to be more deliberate about it than that.
Yeah, I think of it very much like a food recipe. When you're making anything, there's going to be a certain amount of every single one of those ingredients that go into that food recipe. If you were making something and you put the exact same amount into every single ingredient that you were putting in, it's probably going to turn out very different than what you were anticipating it was going to be in, and probably not the optimal one either.
There would be way too much vanilla extract for sure in a lot of the things that...
Good 401ks gone bad. Final danger is neglecting portfolio rebalancing.
Yeah, that is a really big one. And, we'd certainly, if you're an active participant in one, you've got money coming in, probably every 2 weeks or twice a month going into that. And that helps minimize that to an extent. But there are certain asset classes that every single year are going to outperform the other ones, and sometimes by some pretty wide margins. And if you don't pay attention to that, all of a sudden your risk tolerance gets really skewed. Imagine you're a 60-40 investor. 60% stocks and 40% bonds. But we're in a year where bonds are flat and the stock market's up 30%. Well, all of a sudden that 60 might become 65 or 70% of it, and your bonds become a much less. And now all of a sudden you became a much more aggressive investor, and maybe you don't realize it. Well, if that next year we have a recession or the market starts to pull back, you're going to feel it much more than you thought you were going to, because you're taking a lot more risk than you were comfortable with without knowing it. And all of a sudden that balance starts falling down and it becomes really uncomfortable.
Tom, we work with a lot of companies and their 401k plans. We help them with this?
That's right. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times the tools themselves, the websites will allow you to say, rebalance this thing semi-annually or annually. We think it's a better idea to do it very deliberately. That's why we sit down with people to help. But oftentimes there are tools that can kind of help you stay closer to the path. So yeah, this is something we do all day long with people.
The same thing, Matt, with our clients?
Oh, yeah. We're watching it every single day. So where we might not be making action, we're at least aware of where those allocations are, what's going well, what's not going well, and we're able to make changes when we need to. But certainly you want to make sure that you're on top of it.
Tom Parks, Director of Retirement Plan Services, thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Matt Morzy, Director of Research, Annex Wealth Management Investment Team, thank you.
Thank you.